Hi, good evening, friends. Suman here from Onco Congress, and it's a pleasure to be here today on this very special day, as this month we all know is dedicated to survivors. And as a survivor, we know that how important for us, to celebrate our life. So on this special day, I would like to honor all the survivors who are part of this group or who are outside of the group. And I would like to acknowledge their strength, their courage, their determination to not to give up and, to be willing to keep inspiring. So in a similar line, today I am going to introduce you a very young, brave survivor who also encountered this very deadly diagnosis and which actually turned his world upside down. But though it was difficult to, accept this, he gathered all his courage and he chose to, defeat this, challenge this deadly disease on a daily basis and with a great smile. So let me introduce you to a wonderful young, courageous survivor who does not believe in the word conquer or defeating, but he believes in the word survivorship. And that is a very powerful word. So here I would like to honor and welcome Mr. Sanjay Deshpande from Hyderabad, who is a great author based on his real life experience of Don't Ask Me How I Am Doing. And Sanjay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I would like to welcome you, honor you, and I'm so thankful for you being here at this time. And please share your journey with us.
Where would you like me to begin?
Yeah. So I would like to know about you, how was your life before cancer? And when you diagnosed this, deadly thing in your life, such a challenging thing, how you could take it, how did it affected you?
Sure. So I got diagnosed in September 2021 when I was 29 years old. So life before that was, I had just finished my undergraduate and postgraduate programs and I was focusing on work. I was working in the education technology industry. I was a part of a founding team of a startup and which was growing and expanding exponentially. And of course, startup life means there's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I was very busy with my life. And I think I was excited about the possibilities in the future because by then I had heard that I got through Harvard University and I would be going in September to Harvard University to study. So I was quite optimistic and looking forward to, what the possibilities are there out there in the world post, my educational experience. And life was as good as it could be post-pandemic. I mean, this was at the end of the pandemic. The second wave had passed. Pandemic was not necessarily the best. Thankfully, I got diagnosed after the pandemic. I mean, the pandemic didn't end necessarily, but at least the second wave was completed.
Yeah.
So I got diagnosed at a time where people were not necessarily isolating themselves anyway. Yeah, so my life before cancer was fast-paced, focused completely on my career, extremely hectic because I was trying very hard to climb this career ladder and be successful, make money and all of that. And I paid very little attention to my health, very little attention to my nutrition, to my diet, to my exercise, to my body, to my mind. I was hustling hard and doing my best to, succeed at the workplace.
Like a normal young life,
Or any
like
20-year-old in their late 20s, right? You're focused on your career, you're focused on, moving forward in life. You're focused on spending time with your friends, going out, eating out, ordering in. and I lived away from home. I was basically based out of Delhi. I had studied in Bombay and then moved to Delhi to do my post graduation, and then I ended up working in Delhi. So I essentially was out of home for 11 years before I had to move back home due to pandemic. And so yeah, I was a regular 20-year-old who was oblivious to the fact that life can change overnight with a diagnosis like this. And I moved to the US to start my master's program in August of 2021. And on the first day I landed on my campus, I had a very interesting experience. I use the word interesting because it's very ironic and it's like uncanny. I had worked 10 years to get into Harvard University. I worked that hard
Oh
to
my
make
God.
sure that I get into Harvard University. And on the day I land on campus, I unpack my bags in the hostel, and I meet up with a bunch of other Indian students and hang out with them. And suddenly I have a life-threatening seizure. And then
Same
same
day.
day,
Oh
on
my
the day I
God.
landed on campus. So I
Very
have
cinematic,
like,
I'll say.
yeah, it was unbelievable. Like I couldn't spend even one day on campus.
Oh
I
my
had a
God.
seizure. Um, I was foaming at my mouth. They thought I was going to die, so they called 911. And then the EMTs came. They took me to the nearest hospital. The nearest hospital only had a CT machine, so then they put me through the CT machine. They saw something in my head. They're like, the images are not clear. We need to go do an MRI. So they took me to the Harvard Medical School's hospital to do an MRI because the MRI machine was there. And in that MRI, they found out that I have a malignant brain tumor. And all of this was happening when I was in and out of consciousness, and I had no clue what was happening with me. And
Away from your country, parents,
away
everything.
from everyone I knew, it was like I was in the middle of a desert, and suddenly I was being informed that I have cancer. And that is precisely what happened. Once I came out of my consciousness, one of the doctors came and saw me, and they sat next to me and told me, "We are very sorry to inform you, but it seems like you have brain cancer, and you'll probably not live for more than 5 years.
Oh my God.
And we need you to go through an emergency surgery right away." So then they were trying to schedule an emergency surgery for me. I definitely didn't want to do anything in the US because A, I was on student insurance, and B, it's very expensive. All medical treatment in the US is
Yeah.
expensive. I didn't want to do anything away from my parents. My parents are doctors in Hyderabad. I'd rather move back to India and get anything I wanted to do done. So when
What kind of cancer, like, it was diagnosed as like,
they
like,
couldn't diagnose it because brain cancers required the tissue to be able to diagnose. So only after they performed the surgery could I get a diagnosis and the
okay.
grading and the staging. So they just told me it's a glioma and you need an emergency surgery and you will not live for more than 5 years. So they were trying to schedule my surgery, and I told them that, I would really like to move back to India and get the treatment done there. My parents are doctors and they were not willing to discharge me. So then I made them call my father up. My father spoke to the neurosurgeon, convinced him that he's a doctor.
Oh, your
Convinced
father is a neurosurgeon.
no. My
Oh,
father is a doctor, but
okay.
the neurosurgeon who was going to do my surgery over
Okay.
there spoke to my father,
Got it.
confirmed whether I'm lying or not, because patients don't want to get things done in the
Yeah.
US, they lie. Um, and then when my father convinced him that I'll get treatment in India, just let him come back to India. Then they discharged me. So basically, they gave me a note which said, person is being discharged against medical advice. Doctors and hospital not responsible for any further incidents. That freaked me out because it almost made me feel like, okay, I'm probably going to die, and then nobody wants to take responsibility for it. And then they put me on very high dosage of anti-epileptic medicines because I had seizures. And then I took a 30-hour flight back to India. And that was very, very nerve-wracking because I didn't know at what point I could get a seizure. And I couldn't tell anyone in the flight that I have, epilepsy, because they would have not let me board the flight then. So I was on medication and I was praying that, I get no seizures on the flight. Thankfully, after a 30-hour flight, I landed in Hyderabad. I met my parents. We all cried. And yeah, that's how I found out. And that's how,
Can't imagine, tears are coming in my eyes just thinking that moment. You went through all that all alone.
yeah, all alone. And then uh, the only good thing was my university was very supportive. The minute I got diagnosed and I was going to move back to India, I went to the university. I told them that, listen, I got diagnosed with brain cancer just now, and I would like to return to India to get my treatment done. Could you please give me a deferral? So they gave me a deferral. They refunded my fees that I had paid. They refunded the fees I had paid for hostel, and they have been very supportive through the process. So in that way, I feel very obliged and privileged that I go to a university um, which provides such support, which is usually not the case. They could have easily said that, we are sorry you've paid the fees, now you'll have to forfeit it.
Ideally, that is what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. And they also didn't need to give me a deferral. They could have just said, you reapply and we think that you fit in the class, then we'll let you. But they gave me a deferral and they refunded my fees, and then I came back to India. What I'm very proud of is the fact that, even in that difficult situation, I had the mental um, sanity to be able to go to the college, speak to them, tell them what's happening, get my money back. Because it was my parents' money and my money that I hard-earned money. And I did not wait till coming back to India to do that. I did that and then I flew back to India because I knew very well that, once I left the country, things would be very difficult.
That's amazing, that actually takes a lot of courage, dealing everything all alone.
Yeah, it was very difficult, but in retrospect, I don't know where the courage came from. It just came.
What I believe that once we face such kind of situation, it does bring disappointment, but it also gives us, no option. It's survival, fetus survival. You get that strength and courage to fight because you have no option.
Yeah, the disappointment came after I came back to India. It slowly started hitting me what was happening to me. And then we met multiple doctors to get, second, third, fourth opinions. Because each doctor said surgery to karna hi padega. So my parents were trying to see if, they can do just chemo radiation, avoid surgery. Because brain is a very sensitive organ to even touch. If like the surgeon by mistake also like removes a certain tissue which is important for human survival, I could either be paralyzed, I could be bedridden, I could have lost my ability to speak, to see, to move, to do practically anything at all. So my parents wanted to avoid surgery as much as possible, but the doctors all seem to say that removing the tumor is the only way to begin the treatment process, because only when the tumor is removed can they send it for testing to find out what type of cancer I have and what stage or grade it is at. So after talking to a lot of doctors, we finally finalized one doctor and one hospital in Hyderabad. And I had a 7.5 hour long surgery. It was a very dangerous surgery because my tumor was uh, close to my motor complex. So basically the area which is responsible for all movement. I could have been paralyzed on the left side of my body. But luckily I had a fantastic surgeon and the surgeon did a very good job. And I had partial paralysis of the left side of the body for a couple of days, but then I did not give up and I did my best to recover, and then I recovered. I feel like I think there's an element of not wanting to give in to the disease, which is important. Like the minute you say ki, now this is it, I can't really do anything about it, this is my fate, you're giving power to the illness over you, and which is not always a great idea. I mean, grief is an important part of the process. For me, survivorship began after my treatment. So the surgery happened, and then after surgery, we found out that it's an incurable, chronic, and rare type of brain cancer. So it was more heartbreaking for me and my family.
So
Imagine
like,
getting
what was
cancer.
the treatment decided? Because this is kind of, as you told, that it's a rare thing. So what actually was like, medical expert advice with this kind of situation?
So the regular treatment is surgery, chemo, and radiation. But for this kind of tumor happens only to old people, usually above the age of 50 or 60.
Mhm.
So it's rare also because it happened to me when I was not even 30. So the doctors had to figure out what's the best treatment plan. Chemo and radiation have a lot of side effects. They
Right.
usually don't work on the kind of brain cancer that I have. So they did not want to give me any chemo or radiation till I have a recurrence. So all I had was a surgery. And that's about it. Right now, I'm under wait and watch protocol or active surveillance or active monitoring, as they call it, where I have MRI scans every 6 months to see if there is any recurrence or regrowth of my tumor. Uh, and if there is, then they will figure out if they need to give chemo or radiation. Right now, I only had a surgery, but it was a pretty intense surgery. This entire part
Yeah,
of
I
my skull
saw
was removed.
the whole, this thing
Yeah,
was, yeah,
this whole area. I have like
it was a
a
very big,
crater. Yeah, I have a crater here. Like if you touch my head, like it feels like there are ridges like on the moon.
yeah,
There
I
are,
could see that whole zigzag thing was
yeah.
full till end. Yeah,
I'm just lucky to have hair that has grown back. Because
yeah.
if I had chemo or radiation, then the hair would have probably
So
not grown.
while you were going through this journey of, treat surgery and, experience of all these things, like what kept you going? Because like, there were very less positivity was like, shown to you with your situation. Like, as per the health experts and the surgery and less options, like how you managed to keep going and what was your experience through this, learning experience?
I think in retrospect, it was pure adrenaline. Like, your fight and flight response kicks in the minute you encounter like a dangerous situation. Say you see a lion in front of you. You either fight it or you run away from it.
Yeah.
Or you get frozen. I did not have the choice to be frozen because I had to do something about it. So I decided to not run away, but at least tackle it head on. I don't want to call it fight because cancer is a part of my own body because your own cells become cancerous in nature. So we
Right.
can't say I fought
Your
cancer.
own body
Fighting your
become
own
your
body.
enemy.
Yeah, I don't think my body is my enemy. If anything at all, my body was telling me that I need to slow down. The life I was living earlier was not a very healthy life, and I probably needed to slow down. But coming back to what kept me going, I think it was purely adrenaline. I did not, I felt like a horse. All I was focused on treatment, get through the treatment, get through the other side of the treatment. Like whatever it needs, get through the treatment. I did not have the time, energy, and space to think of anything else. I was just like, okay, step one, step two, step three. Like just put one foot in front of another and do what is required. And once you're done with your surgery, then you can figure out what needs to be done and what has happened to you. That's precisely what happened. So since I did not have a lot of time, I got diagnosed on almost 8th September. Sorry, I got diagnosed on 1st September 2021. And I had my surgery on 28th September 2021. And in between, I had to fly to another country, consult different doctors, figure out the treatment that I need to get, figure out the best doctor, best hospital, and then request an appointment, schedule a surgery, do all the tests before the surgery that are required. Basically, I had no time to think.
Right.
So I was purely moving on adrenaline and focusing on the goal. The goal was get through the treatment. This is what 4 doctors have said. All of them had said the same thing. So there was consensus that helped because I felt like, okay, it's not one random doctor saying, okay, let's do this. I did not feel like a guinea pig. I did not feel like they were doing an experiment on me. I could see that, it's what is recommended everywhere. And I'm also a very curious and intellectual person. So I read up everything I could read up online. including all the medical journals about what is the best course of treatment if someone has been diagnosed with a glioma. And everything pointed towards the surgery. So then I was finally like, okay, let's get the surgery done. On the day before my surgery is the day I felt slightly scared that, I could possibly be paralyzed or bedridden. So I called my father and I told him, okay, I'm going to go into this operating room tomorrow. And when I go into the operating room tomorrow, I will not have the agency to tell you what I want and don't want in my life. So I told him that if in the middle of the surgery, the doctor comes out and tells you that we can remove the whole tumor, but if we remove the whole tumor, he might lose his ability to either walk, talk, see, think, or do anything else which is important to me, then ask them not to do it. Let the whatever amount of tumor they can safely remove, let them do that. I will take risk and take chemo and radiation, but I want to live life with good quality rather than live long and be bedridden. So it was very difficult for my father to understand that, basically his son is saying, I'm okay dying early, but I don't want to live a life with bad quality. But I had to do that because the work that I do and the kind of person I am, for me, the ability to think, to speak, to communicate, to walk are very important. I love dance. I can't imagine a life without being able to dance. So if I'm paralyzed in any way or if I'm bedridden in any way completely, then I don't see the point in living. Like
I can relate to it very well.
what is life if you can't do the things that make you who you are, right? So I told him that it was very difficult. My father almost cried and he said, don't say such things and all of that. But I was very clear that, if they're going to have to make a choice between quantity of life versus quality of life, I choose quality of life. I'm okay dying in 5 years, but I won't want those 5 years to be good 5 years.
Wow.
So that happened. And then my surgery went well. They were able to remove the whole tumor. Fortunately for me, my general recovery was good enough to be discharged early. I got discharged in, I think, 72 hours. Usually people who go through a brain surgery get discharged after a week, but I was discharged in 3 days. And they also probably discharged me because my parents are doctors, so they thought, they can take care of me. And I couldn't use the left side of my body, so I had to learn how to use it again. So I started with small things like, holding pens, holding pencils, trying to brush my teeth with it, trying to try to eat food with my left hand, all of which seemed impossible at that time.
So, like, did you, like, look for an expert to help you with the same, like physiotherapist, or on your own?
I had a cancer coach. She's also a yoga teacher. And she gave me a couple of exercises to do that helped. But most of it was me just trying myself. I just pushed myself to get through it because I was just like, I can't be paralyzed. I cannot let this be my permanent state of being.
So there will be a time like, when you might be feeling like to give up, when this is all going on. Like, have you faced a situation ever like?
All the time. I still feel like giving up many times. Just last week, I felt like giving up. And then then I remember that, there are so many items on my bucket list that haven't been ticked off. So I cannot give up. Not yet. Yeah. I mean, I think the expectation that people have that, survivors are somehow these superheroes who do not feel like giving up is so unfair. Yeah. Because the society expects you to be this person.
Thanks for bringing this point out.
No, they expect you to become this superhero that they can look up to and say like, oh my God, you're so inspiring. Oh my God, how the hell did you manage to do this, do that? And I'm like, I am as human as anyone else. I do go through ups and downs of life and I do feel grief at times. I mourn the loss of my identity. I mourn the loss of my dreams and aspirations. I grieve my inabilities and my deficits. I have epilepsy, which I will have for the rest of my life. I'm on 4 medications a day for that, and they cause me memory issues, focus issues, cognitive issues. Yes, I have disabilities, but they are now my personality. I can't necessarily not. I can't say like, oh, I don't want these. I don't have a choice. These are the cards that were dealt to me, and I'm going to play with those cards. I'm not going to be like, okay, I'm done playing this game. That's
One
not
of
going
our
to
member
happen.
has, yeah, one of our members has, commented, and he's asking you a question. Did your lookout to future change when you were diagnosed? Since you mentioned future looking promising otherwise.
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, I think I went through a complete existential crisis because the plans I had for my life before cancer were completely eradicated because my doctors told me that I can't do a stressful job anymore. I cannot use up a lot of energy all at once. So I couldn't do a 9 to 5 kind of a job. I mean, I wasn't doing a 9 to 5 job. I was doing like 12 hours, 14 hours a day, startup culture. That's how the kind of work life was. So not only did my lifestyle change, but my ability to do things changed. So all the goals I had for my life changed as well. Um, I wasn't really sure if I would be able to go back to Harvard to do my master's degree or like do the kind of work I wanted to do earlier. In fact, in retrospect, right now, my goals are not the same anymore. And my outlook towards life has also changed. I procrastinate less on things that are important to me. Earlier, I used to say, this I will do later. There's time to do it. Like, I'm only 29. I can do that when I'm 50, 60, 70. And now I'm like, boss, I don't know what's going to happen after a year. Like, I can't leave it for like 10 years later.
Life is unpredictable. So
Yeah. And anyway, like prognosis figures.
So your priorities on your bucket list has changed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of them are the same. I still want to travel the world. I still want to go to Harvard and graduate. I still want to continue dancing, learn dance properly, and all of that. I want to write more, publish more. I want to learn new skills.
So what
But
kind of dance form you are into it? Like,
Bollywood.
oh,
I'm very desi at heart, as desi as one can be. But yeah, I think the order of the priority changed because earlier I was prioritizing money, success, fame, um, being able to buy fancy cars, being able to buy a house, being able to spend more money on things, materialistic things. Now I'm less materialistic and more experiential. I don't know if that makes sense,
your
but
priority is now more on having experiences, right?
yes, experiences and relationships.
Wow.
Um, I
Yeah.
think one thing that people don't talk about is cancer is a very isolating experience. Like people around you will tell you that we'll be there for you, but they'll never really understand what's happening to you. So
Thank you
only
for
a
bringing
fellow
this point.
survivor can understand. And even in that, every type of cancer is different. So a breast cancer survivor will not understand the problems of a brain cancer survivor. Similarly, a pancreatic cancer survivor will not understand the problems of a blood cancer survivor. So even within the community, there is a lot of
Differences of
differences.
experiences. Therapy might be similar, maybe surgery, radio, chemo.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like,
the
sequence might be like first, second, third, or
pharmacological
maybe one.
treatment might be similar. And the other thing that happens is that there are very few people who are young who get cancer. So usually cancer happens to people who, sorry, not happens. Like the category of cancer patients and survivors and caregivers are either pediatric, which is under 18, or geriatric, which is over 40. So very few people between 18 to 39 actually get diagnosed with cancer because it's a unique age group. And that is precisely the point of time when you're trying to make things in life, right?
Right.
You're going to college or you're graduating from college and then you're getting into your first job, then you're climbing the career ladder, then you're trying for bigger roles, then you're trying to find a partner, you're trying to get married, you're trying to settle down, you're trying to move countries or buy a house. have children, raise children. So imagine at that pivotal
Prime
point,
stage of your life, of any
exactly,
person's.
prime
Yeah.
stage of your life. Imagine at that pivotal point in your life, you are diagnosed with a life-threatening disease like cancer. It completely throws you off your game, but also makes it very difficult for people to also understand. So when I started looking for support groups, I couldn't find any that catered to my needs. My needs was, I'm a young adult. I need to figure out how to get back into, say, an educational institute, or how do you get back to, say, a career, or how do I get back to, say, dating or finding a partner uh, with cancer or after cancer, right? So these are not questions a lot of people are able to answer. And I needed to be able to speak to people in the same age group with similar experiences to be able to do that. Interestingly enough, there are a couple of resources and support groups available in the West for these kind of issues. So in the US and in Europe and in Australia, there are support groups and resources, but there were none in South Asia completely. So that's when I decided after my surgery that, okay, then if there's nothing that exists, then someone needs to create it. And I was like, it seems like life has given me a second chance and I have the skills to do this. And maybe I should get that done. That's how
So
I
was
started
that the
working on my book.
reason for you to get inspired to write this book, Don't Ask Me How I Am Doing?
Yes,
And
yes.
what this title, like what inspired you to put this title? And I also read through like adulting cancer, right?
Adulting with cancer. Yeah.
Adulting with cancer. So can you elaborate on same?
Sure. So when I found out there are no resources available for people young, it's called young adults with cancer. So when I found out there were no resources, I said, let's, come up with resources.
Right.
And I did not want to do it the clinical way, basically getting doctors to give information. I wanted lived experiences because people want to hear from other survivors. They don't want to hear from doctors. They don't want to hear from like some health startup or health company and wellness company. They want to hear from actual survivors. So then I decided that, I will reach out to people through my network and find people who are young adults with cancer or have been through cancer or are currently going through cancer treatment to write for the book. And that's how the book came into being. I'm the lead author of the book, but there are stories from 11 other co-authors from the Indian diaspora. They're all Indians, or like, I think one person is Nepali, but other than that, they're all from the Indian subcontinent. And they talk
How you
about,
could connect with them? Like what, like
I had to really search very hard. I put up a I put up a post on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and then asked people to share, and they
and you're
shared it in
going
their
through all
network.
these challenges of daily treatment and
Yeah.
you're doing this simultaneously.
I don't know. I got possessed by something at that time, Suman. I was just like, this has to be done. Like, how is this not available? This is a big gap in the cancer care ecosystem. Why is
I
there
was about to
nothing?
ask you what gap,
This is the
so
gap. Like young adults fall through the cracks because nobody realizes that, they'll get cancer. Most people assume that cancer will happen to either kids or it'll happen after 40. So the young adults fall through the cracks. People assume like, you're in the pink of your health, you're fit, you're this, you're that, nothing is going to happen to you. Or even if something happens to you, you'll manage because you don't have other comorbidities, age is on your side and all of that. But the biggest problem actually for young adults with cancer is mental health, because you go through a very rough time looking at your peers. All my classmates, my friends, my peers are traveling the world, eating at fancy restaurants, uh, going to the biggest universities and colleges, getting promoted and becoming directors and vice presidents of startups and companies. And I am stuck at home scrolling through my phone and looking at their success and feeling like a failure because I've been at home for 2 years now.
I can relate to that. And being
It,
young, it's very tough.
it's very tough. And the one thing I told myself that I'll not do is I'll not be dependent on my parents. So even though my treatment got done in September and I spent 3 months rehabilitating, um, I found a job for myself and I started working part-time right after my treatment was done. And while I was doing part-time work, I started working on the book. And then the book took 9 months to get done. From the time I started like coming up with the idea till the time it was published, it took 9 months. And the only reason I feel I'm alive today, Suman, and I did not kill myself when I was going through the depression of having cancer, was because I could read these stories and I could relate to them so much. I did not feel alone anymore because cancer is a very isolating disease. People around you don't understand what it's like. And as much as your parents love you, as much as your siblings love you, as much as your friends love you, all they can tell you is, it'll be fine. It's okay. Forget about it. Move on. Think positive and it'll not come back. That's precisely why my book is called Don't Ask Me How I'm Doing. Because what happens is most people don't want to know how you're doing. It's just a conversation, it's like a small talk. And you meet someone, you're like, hey, how are you doing now? You know? And when I start, I'm a type of a person who believes in total vulnerability. So if someone asks me like how I'm doing, I'll tell them today I'm feeling suicidal, or yesterday I was feeling depressed, or day before yesterday my scans did not come well. My doctor said I might not live for this long, or like I'm feeling isolated. And then people are flabbergasted. They're really scared. They don't know how
They're
to
not able
respond.
to, accept it or react towards it. So either
Yeah,
they will not interact with you, or they will, move, or they'll just ask things which is not supposed to be asked.
yeah. And that's precisely what happened. A lot of
Yeah.
people stopped talking to me. A lot of people either ghosted me, which is like completely stopped interacting with me, or they kept saying, don't use your cancer card everywhere. When we said, how are you doing? We just wanted to
So
do
sorry,
small
people
talk.
could say that to you.
Yeah, yeah. There are people who say that. The problem also is, Suman, that I don't look like a cancer survivor. They want me to be looking like disabled or like, bedridden or like with some sort of, deficit. And unfortunately, I don't fit that picture. Because if you were interacting with me regularly and you didn't know my past, you wouldn't assume that I've been a
Yeah, it's
cancer.
not written on our face that
Yeah,
we
it's
have a
not.
cancer.
And my disabilities are all invisible because they're cognitive and mental disabilities. I thankfully don't have physical disabilities. So most people say things like, don't use your cancer card. So that's why my book is called Don't Ask Me How
Don't
I'm
ask
Doing.
me.
Because if you genuinely
Very
don't have the
relevant.
time or the energy or the patience to really know what I feel like, don't ask me. And the reason it's called adulting with cancer, because it's about how do you live like a young adult with cancer. Or because once cancer has been a part of your life, it's never going away. It's very easy saying that, okay, I'm a survivor now, my treatment is done. But to be very honest, even if all cancer, there are many cancers which are treatable now, almost all cancers have a risk of recurrence. You can never say that you're 100% cured of cancer. It might come 20 years later, 30 years later, or probably you will die before, you get a recurrence. But all cancers are recurrent in nature. That's just how cancer is. It's just that some treatments delay it for a really long time. So then you do not necessarily find out when it's going to come back. And some cases, it comes back early. Like in my case, there is a 100% chance of recurrence, not just one, but multiple recurrences. But thankfully, there is treatment. So I won't die of a recurrence immediately. I have to just make peace with the fact that this is like a chronic illness. It's like diabetes. Every time I have a flare up, I'll have to have treatment. The treatment might be another surgery, chemo, radiation. The one thing that I'm not scared of is dying, because I've realized that everyone's going to die, and COVID only taught me that, anyone can die at any point of time. What I am scared of is how painful life will be if I am left with more deficits after my recurrences. So it doesn't scare me that, I might get.
That doesn't scare you, but the
That doesn't scare me.
consequences of side effects scares.
Yeah, like quality of life getting damaged is what scares me a lot more. And also having a painful death. I'm okay if I die with like a heart attack or something, because it's a quick death. Maybe I'll feel pain, but then after then I'll be dead. But if I'm on a ventilator, or if I'm like going through like regular treatment and it's not responding and I have to go through more painful treatment, I'd rather not. That's my philosophy.
This is a very different kind of interaction I'm having with you, Sanjay, and you have, bursted so many bubbles out there. I have interacted with so many survivors, like, who basically don't talk about such things, which are so important to talk. And I'm so thankful to you being so courageous to bring out such points, that being survivor is not easy. The consequences, the fear, the like struggles, it's amazing. Like, and with all this thing, like, the message you want to give, let us know what kind of message, with all what you have brought all these issues right now, and explain what kind of message you want to deliver to the society, those, as you said, the struggles we are facing and you're facing. So any message you want to give to the society, how to deal with people like us, survivors?
So there are two messages I want to give. One is to people who encounter people with cancer, and the second is to cancer patient survivors and caregivers. The first message is that don't put cancer survivors on a pedestal and worship them only to realize that they're as human as anyone else. You are making them inspirational. They might not be inspiring themselves because they struggled and suffered to be where they are. They did not choose cancer. So when someone says cancer journey, I feel very uncomfortable, because it's like saying, oh, I decided to go to Amsterdam. No, nobody decided to go through chemotherapy, through radiation, through surgery. Nobody did. It's not a choice. So please do not put people on a pedestal and try to worship them only to realize that, they are as human as you. So that's one thing I want to say, that, don't force inspiration on a cancer survivor. One cancer survivor might do inspiring things. Like, people talk about me having written a book in less than 3 months after my surgery as inspiring. That's great. I am proud of what I've done. But to be very honest and vulnerable, I did it to also keep myself sane. I did it for my own personal benefit. It's a legacy that I'm leaving behind, but I also did it to make sure that it's form of a self-therapy, because I was struggling, I was depressed, I was grieving, and I needed to do something. So I decided to write a book. So it's also selfish in a certain way. And on the other hand, another survivor may not do anything extraordinary that you feel is inspiring. So don't measure two people's worth who are both survivors based on like how much they've been able to succeed or being able to do. I have a very specific, I don't know, I should be talking about this or not. Like, I feel uncomfortable when people say things like, oh, I'm a cancer thriver. Like, I'm thriving because of my cancer. I have nothing against them. It's great if you are thriving. But then you're putting pressure on every other cancer survivor to also thrive, because they are feeling that, oh God, if I'm not doing that, then I'm not a good survivor. Surviving is just about that, surviving. There is no one way to survive. Oh, if I'm not giving a TED talk, if I'm not publishing a book, or if I'm not becoming a motivational speaker after my cancer treatment, it doesn't mean you failed as a cancer survivor, right? Like, and that's
even
one thing.
If we die, we have not failed because we kept going.
You did not. So, which is why I hate battle language. Nobody can fight cancer, because cancer is not something which is an external enemy. It's your own body. So I hate terms like he lost his battle to cancer, she lost her battle to cancer. Why? There was no battle to begin with. This person did not choose to fight that enemy. The enemy just attacked. And this person was trying to tackle that enemy the best way they could. And I also don't like using the phrase cancer warrior, because again, you're talking about fighting your own body. And I completely feel uncomfortable when people say things like, oh, you're thriving after cancer, because I'm not. I mean, as much as I will put up a public facade and say that, oh, look, I've written like these 3 self-help books on how to be optimistic and motivational after cancer, it's not always going to be roses. There are going to be difficult days, and it's okay, and you accept them. Do not feel like, oh, because you're going through a difficult day, you failed as a cancer patient. No, you have not. It's human to go through these emotions, but remember not to give up.
So do you think that it's very important to have a concept as we have this Onco Conquerors group? Yeah, I know you don't relate with the term conquerors, but we did come up with this to inspire, because that is what everybody is like, looking
Yeah,
forward
and
for. This is a
whatever
general term. But
whatever
like,
works
do you
for everyone
believe
is
the
work.
importance of, like, it is very important to have a community to be created for us
Absolutely.
survivors?
Absolutely.
Does it help?
Definitely, because nobody else understands these challenges. As much as caregivers and friends and family and like colleagues try to be empathetic to you, they will not understand what it's like. So, like I mentioned to you right before we started this live session, that I had a scan scheduled, and I was feeling very nervous and anxious about it for over a week, because you constantly keep thinking that, oh God, is it back? Is this little scratch a sign of my cancer being back? Or is this headache because of the cancer tumor being back? Others don't relate to it. They don't understand. If you try to talk to a person who doesn't have it, they're like, why are you fretting about these things? You will have your scan, and once your scan is done, your result will come out. You will find out anyway. But the anxiety, which is called scanxiety, is real. And only a fellow cancer patient or survivor will understand that. Right? Because most people don't understand, can't relate to it. And many people who are in their 20s and 30s live life imagining that they will live up to 100. There's a bubble of invincibility. You feel like you're never going to die or nothing's going to happen to you. But when you've been through something like cancer, that bubble has been popped. You realize that life is short and things don't always go the way you want them to go. And very few things in life are actually in your control. And then you start valuing different things in life. So then you start feeling very dissociated from your other friends and family members because they are doing other things.
Your priorities change.
Your priorities have
Your
changed.
perspective
So
change.
group which understands that and that focuses on that. Now, a survivor group will talk about how to maintain their health and well-being, how to deal with like anxiety and depression because of cancer, what can help them improve their mood on a difficult day. It provides them a safe space to rant. It provides them a safe space to talk about I'm going through this right now. What have you all tried? What helped you? Maybe it will give me ideas on what I can do. And it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to keep a survivor alive.
Thank you for, inspiring and talking such strong about the community, the power of community. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad to, and I'm so really, really inspired and so amazed to see the kind of, thinking you have. And I believe maybe uh, the life knew you are capable to deal with this, or maybe this was like something which made you something to create very strong for the future survivors. So like I believe that
I hope it
I am
helps.
so thankful that you chose to create a support in your own way by writing a book or by understanding the situation and coming up with the solution. That is quite inspiring. So before we wind up, would you like to say something else?
I just want to say, like, if there are any patients or survivors listening to this, it's okay to not be okay. And you don't always need to be happy, feeling good, or feeling like a champion, or feeling like a warrior. There are days when you might, and that will feel really good. But there are days when you may not, and it's okay. Just remember that this too shall pass.
Wow. I wish you all the best for your upcoming plans for your going back to studies, Harvard. And I know it's not going to be easy for you. You'll be again all alone there.
I'm very anxious, and
Yeah, but the way I have seen, the way you have handled situation, I can see you can make it.
Fingers crossed. I hope. Please keep me in your prayers.
Yeah, so I'll keep you in prayers, all my best wishes. And I know you are making a difference through your life, even though you are dealing this, we being a survivor, once we finish the treatment, we say, yay, we have conquered, we are a survivor, we boast. Now, all of us, we do. But I believe, you are more than a conqueror, Sanjay, because you are dealing with this. There is no confirmation of cure, and on a daily life basis, there is no cure.
There's no cure.
Yeah, and as you also gave me a great revelation of, we are not having that green light of being, risk-free from cancer once we are diagnosed, whether we are under remission or treatment, or we are no more having treatment. There is always a risk. But
this is not to scare people.
Yeah, not to scare, but see, death is, be it with cancer or without cancer, death is always there.
Yeah.
But how to deal with that is what is very inspiring. And thank you for, sharing your great revelation, I'll say, because nobody talks about it. And I am really happy, and I really admire you for bringing out such points, especially the care gaps, especially that as a survivor, also we feel vulnerable. We there are times when we go through hardships. So yeah, it's not always rosy.
It's not always rosy. And
yeah,
I strongly believe that, in the cancer journey, apart from the treatment, the real struggle begins with survivorship. Because in many ways, that's the phase where you do not know what needs to be done. During treatment, there's a medical professional telling you that A, B, C, D needs to be done in this order. And then your treatment is over. Okay, what after treatment? Now you're done with your treatment. What's next? How do you live life now? What do you need to change? Or even if there are people who are telling you that, you don't know what is in the future. You don't know how long to think of. I earlier used to plan for 5 years. In 1 year, I'm going to do this, in 3 years, this, in 5 years, this. Now I can't even think for more than 3, 6 months to 12 months at a time.
You won't believe I take one month after month. I take like that, because every 3 months I have to go follow up. So I take my life quarterly.
That's a great way to live. You're living.
And as I agree to you, the challenges are not, it begins once the treatment is done. Survivorship.
Absolutely.
That is the real survivorship. Yeah. So
people think survivorship is about, feeling proud of, being able to survive the treatment, or being able to get rid of cancer. It's not that easy. Cancer never leaves you, because you're reeling from the trauma of having gone through that treatment.
Connectly back to the normal world, corporate world.
Go back to the normal. There's no going back to the normal world. You will always be someone who is odd, because people will not understand you. All my friends drink and smoke and all of that, and I can't do any of those. So when I try to hang out with other people of my age, they look at me like I'm some alien. And that's the truth. I am the odd man out in many places, because there are many restrictions on my life. I can't stay up late at night. They trigger my seizures. I can't drink or smoke, because, they're again bad for people who are cancer survivors, and they trigger my seizures. And I can't not eat every 3 hours, because they trigger seizures. My life is very difficult now. So many people of my age don't understand anything. And there's this popular saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I believe what doesn't kill you makes you harder to relate to and weirder than others. I don't know about the stronger part. I just feel like people don't understand me, and they think I'm weird. But it's okay. You have to learn to make peace with the fact that you're not going to be the same person anymore. And the last thing I'll say before we wrap up is there's also other popular saying, youth is wasted on the young. I feel like life is wasted on those who don't understand that they're going to die.
So before we wind up, I would like to, let's take a pledge as a, with our members who are watching us out there or will be watching you later on this special occasion of, not surviving that we have beaten this cancer, but, not celebrating that we are beating this cancer, but celebrating the willingness to, deal with this.
Absolutely.
And accepting it. Let's take a pledge as together to again that I from my childhood, my mother used to put a poster, like she was a school entrepreneur and she had this poster behind her office. I love these words. And whenever I used to break down during my journey, I used to use this and I still use. Everybody, you might be also knowing this. Woods are lovely, dark and deep. So let's take a pledge because our life is like that now.
Yeah.
So woods are lovely, dark and deep, but we have promises to keep. Let's promise, Sanjay. Let's promise all the audience out there before we wind up. So let's make a promise whenever we break down. It's okay to cry, as Sanjay said. It's okay to break down. It's being survivor doesn't mean that we have to all the time, being strong, showing ourselves. It's okay. Being strong means being vulnerable.
Exactly.
That takes a courage.
Being vulnerable
being
is
strong means
courageous.
crying out, showing your anger, feeling miserable, and still choosing to move on.
Yes.
So let's take a pledge that even if we break down, we cry, we go through all these struggles of our life, we will keep going before we sleep.
Yeah. Because there are miles to go before we sleep.
Yeah. Miles to go before we sleep. And we will go miles together.
Yeah. And even if you have to gently go into the night, go with the awareness that you've done everything you could and there are no regrets that you have.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, Sanjay. And I'm really inspired and keep inspiring. And I'm so honored to interact with you. And you are a great young eagle, I can say future eagle, who is going to take a great soar in the sky and make a difference for sure. And you are making a difference. All my best wishes to you. We'll keep in touch and we'll keep building this community for our survivors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Strong. So guys, thank you so much for being here, being with Sanjay, and I will keep inspiring each other. I'll keep bringing brave young survivors and all the survivors who have chosen not to give up to interact with you and keep motivating you. This group is supported by Live Long. It's a health and wellness platform, and we are here with a vision to support and build a great community as Onco Conquerors to support our survivors and also to help them to connect with experts if they need any information. So keep spreading the inspiration, keep spreading the motivation through your life. Be it okay, be it not okay, but never give up. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.